The New South Wales Government is pouring billions into Parramatta with a vision to create a twin city. But as planning experiments go, one big part is turning out to be a disaster.
Taxpayers have paid way above market to buy a site that is not worth the money paid for.
They've got asbestos, they've got chrome, they've got an oil refinery, every imaginable problem with that land they've got.
Somebody has got to explain why it seems as though we've taken on $250 million white elephant.
In late 2015, the New South Wales Government unveiled its preferred route for the multi-billion-dollar Parramatta Light Rail project.
Parramatta Light Rail is a world-class transport system transforming the way people move around Western Sydney. Work is also underway to plan a new-look town centre and mixed residential and commercial precinct at Camellia, just a short trip away.
This heavily polluted site would become critical to the new project. Number 6 Grand Avenue, Camellia, would be the light rail depot. Just days before the big announcement, property developer Bill Berger bought this parcel of land. Bill Berger's owners, John and Bill Kinsella, would make a hefty $15 million windfall on the deal, excluding costs.
Opportunity just arise, and as opportunity arise, you take them.
730 has obtained a series of sensitive files that raise serious questions about the government's deal and its failure to negotiate a good price.
You have one new message.
Hi Adele, it's Jeffrey Watson here. Could you send me through those documents? I've got time to have a look at them, and when I've done it I'll give you a call back.
We asked former New South Wales ICAC counsel Jeffrey Watson to examine the documents. Hi, how are you, Jeffrey?
Hi, Adele.
I've just sent you another email. It's all very unclear, isn't it? The whole thing is really quite extraordinary.
I mean, I just cannot believe this.
So I think these documents are very, very interesting.
Well, that's right. They raise a lot of issues.
What the documents show is how the price that the government paid for the land suddenly went up. Back in 2015, Transport for New South Wales originally planned to buy the site, but forced the landowner to clean it up. That's because the land was toxic. But in late 2015, the Kinsella Brothers company bought the property. Then in April, Transport New South Wales recommended the government compulsorily acquire because it appears unlikely that an agreement on compensation will be achieved. But less than a month later, an urgent out-of-session meeting was held. With compulsory acquisition hanging over Bill Berger, it agreed to a negotiated sale of $53.5 million for the land, triple the New South Wales Valuer-General's valuation. And the government agreed to pay for the clean-up of the toxic site. A committee chaired by then Transport for New South Wales boss Tim Reardon approved the deal months before the project had completed a business plan or had planning approval. Reardon is now the New South Wales Premier's top bureaucrat. The deal will end up costing taxpayers at least another $52 million to clean the site. State Labor MP Daniel Mookie has been trying to get to the bottom of the government's failure to negotiate a good deal.
I've been hunting these records and asking questions now for nearly 2 years. Taxpayers paid way above market to buy this site from a developer. I've seen estimates that it will cost anywhere from $100 million to $700 million to clean up this highly toxic site.
Jeffrey, how's Sydney?
Beautiful today.
Former ICAC counsel Jeffrey Watson agrees it looks like a bad deal for New South Wales taxpayers.
The actions by the government here at the very best characterisation, could be described as grossly incompetent. For example, if these decisions were made in a private business setting, those people responsible for it would be sacked immediately. The New South Wales taxpayers paid $53 million for a block of land, which at most was worth between $15 and $20 million. But meanwhile, the New South Wales taxpayer has been saddled with a cost which could be $100 million, could be even as high as $200 million to remediate a site which is badly contaminated with carcinogenic chemicals.
One of the things that, alerted me was this out-of-session meeting to fast-track the purchase of this property.
Well, I've been through the timeline and I just cannot see what the urgency was. There seems to be this recurrent problem where the government is overpaying for blocks of land.
Tony Harris is a former New South Wales Auditor-General who spent his career fighting mismanagement and corruption.
We have a degree of haste that's inexplicable, and we have some coincidences concerning the relationship between the government and the private sector that are worrying. A bigger issue, I suppose, is who benefits. And the private sector was a big beneficiary. They finished the business case for the acquisition about 11 months after they did the acquisition. I mean, the loss of $100 million is significantly higher than the loss that the Commonwealth incurred in the Leppington Triangle to do with the second airport. Everybody talks about the Leppington Triangle and the maybe $30 million worth of loss. Here we've got easily $100 million worth of loss.
While on board, spread along the ferry and avoid close contact with your...
Environmental scientist Dr. Bill Ryle has been studying contaminated land most of his career. In his opinion, Camellia has some of the worst land in Australia.
This Camellia as an industrial location's been operating for many, many years.
He says this site rates as one of the worst.
There are a cocktail of chemicals known in the groundwater and in the soil. The most prevalent of which is chromium-6, which is a known, a proven human carcinogen. It was the principal chemical of concern on the site that Erin Brockovich was concerned about. There's no question it seeped into the groundwater, and this has been known now for some 30 years. The chromium in groundwater was identified on adjacent sites. Also, there's references to chromium in groundwater discharging into the Parramatta River. The site has also been filled with process waste, and they also leach into the river. This is right up amongst the worst sites in New South Wales for sure.
Meanwhile, small businesses in Parramatta are battling to survive. Hit with construction of Stage 1 of the light rail, uncertainty over the future of Stage 2, and the impact of coronavirus.
The place is empty the whole time. And we don't even blame anyone. No one just wants to come here. No one wants to come here when it's like dusty and noisy. It's a family-run business. I actually feel like going somewhere else, find a work so we can pay the rent.
2020 has literally been a write-off. Not only COVID, but we've had the issues with the light rail at the front that's caused a lot of issues.
My last 8 months have been the worst I've ever experienced. Dust sometimes is all over the place. You could see it in the air. Noise is deafening. I don't sleep anymore at night. It's always stress.
"730 was also leaked an internal transport document which says the land is effectively worthless, valued at -$3 to $7 million, according to PwC. The New South Wales Transport Minister, Andrew Constance, referred the matter to the Auditor-General after 730 sent him detailed questions. Today, New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian told reporters the deal should be investigated.
Oh, well, I think at face value, there are sufficient questions there that need to be answered. I'm extremely concerned by what I've read. I mean, I've seen what's on the public record, and I'm extremely concerned by it. And I think it warrants appropriate investigation.
By ICAP?
Potentially, absolutely.
When it comes to the second stage of the Parramatta Light Rail, the site that involves Camellia, the government is effectively gone to ground. Nobody knows whether or not the government's going to keep their commitment. And I think part of the reason is because they now know that this site will cost a lot of money to clean up and the economics of the project no longer stack up.
Without a doubt, this should be referred to ICAC. The haste, the amount, was indicative of the potential for corrupt activity to have occurred.
So where should we go from here?
Straight to ICAC. If you don't report it, I will.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.